Tribble. I am your moderator for today. You can find me all over social media at WhatUpCC. That is WhatUpSISI. Today we have Roy Wood Jr. here with us. Give a round of applause. We will be diving into The Man of Many Fathers, Life Lessons Disguised as a Memoir. I dove into this like a Tomb Raider. Do you understand? I sped through this. It was beautiful. It was vulnerable. And so I'm really excited to talk to you today. But I do have an intro that I want to because you fire. So I feel like the people should know.
Okay.
So here we go.
I ain't gonna stop. You don't really stop. They should tell them about the Emmy nomination.
No. Roy Wood Jr. is best known for his sharp wit, searing social commentary, and scene-stealing performances, from his stand-up specials to his years as a correspondent on The Daily Show. But in his upcoming memoir, the mic is lowered and the spotlight turns inward, centered on themes of fatherhood, mentorship, and legacy. The Man of Many Fathers doesn't just reflect on where he's been, but where he's going and who he's becoming in the process. Through deeply personal stories and the kind of insight that only Roy could deliver, this book explores what it means to raise a child while still reckoning with the lessons and absences of your own upbringing. Please join me in welcoming Roy Wood Jr.
Thank y'all.
Okay, so let's jump right into it. I want to ask you first, what was the catalyst that made you decide to write this book? It's so personal. It's very vulnerable. What in your life, what was the catalyst that got you to you need to put this pen to paper?
My son being born, I think, was... So it's two things. My son was born 2016, and this is it's the rise of Trump. It's still Republican primary, so right. Trump is still funny. And remember those days? So my son is born, and I sit in the delivery room and I start going through, all right, well, what am I going to teach him about this? All right, well, how did I learn about that? Well, damn, I ain't learned that from my pops. All right, well, what am I going to teach him about this value? Well, how did I learn that value? Well, damn, I didn't learn that from my pops. All right, what am I going to teach him about love? Shit, I didn't learn that either. All right, well, who did I learn it from? And just started putting together a list of people and stories that I wanted to tell him when he got older. I put that on the back burner because at the time, things are getting crazy. I'd only been at The Daily Show for less than a year, and when you just start in television, they really only give you 6-month contracts. So I'm a new father, and mind you, my son and his mom were all together at the time, but they're in San Francisco. Okay. I'm like, don't even come to New York because they might fire me. So I'm bi-coastal, so I just need the pressure of keeping this job. Mm-hmm. So I don't have time to write a book. COVID hits, and I get an invitation to do Finding Your Roots with Dr. Henry Gates. And so my father, just for context, my pops died when I was 16 of prostate cancer. I'm my mother's only child, but I'm the 9th of 11 children. So, yeah, it's a lot of us. There are a lot of women in and out of his life. I think the number is 5 women total that the number is spread across. So, I do Finding Your Roots. And when my son was born, I had a degree of anger towards my pops because stuff that I had never had to unpack before because I never had to think about the idea of, damn, you wasn't there for all of this stuff. How dare you? It just never crossed my mind. My parents were separated till I was in the 3rd grade, and that's when they got back together. Mm-hmm. So I did not grow up with the pops in the house. Then when they got back together, it became evident that we were here so I could have my pops to yoke me up if I started, I'm at that age, you start smelling yourself, 3rd, 4th grade, you start jumping bad. So my mom needed me around somebody that was going to jump back. My parents didn't sleep in the same room. Half the week, my pops wasn't even at home. He was with my 2 younger half-brothers and their mom, building what was actually family. So I do Finding Your Roots, and through that process, I find out more about my pops and his side of the family. I was never taken around my dad's relatives. I only know my immediate half siblings. I don't know aunt, uncle, cousin, nobody with the Wood name on my dad's side. I do not know, never met him till his funeral. So we do finding your roots, and I find out that my dad lost his dad when he was 4. His pops went out in Georgia in the 1930s and was disappeared. So you already know what that was. Left the house, did not come home. So my pops and his moms moved to Chicago when my dad was 4 years old. And based on census data, as found by Dr. Gates, there was never another male head of household in the house in my dad's life. So there was never another man in the crib to even show him the things that he never showed me. So, you spend a greater part of your life mad because your pops never gave you the game, but he never got the game. And so the idea of dying before my son is old enough to have the conversations I wish I could have had with my dad.
Yes.
Let me just write all of this down now. And that book was originally just going to be a Word doc for the boy. Like, just a word, yeah. You know what's crazy though? What's crazy is that I kept thinking about, all right, I'm going to write it, and then I'm going to save it to an SD card. But then I'm like, by the time I die, he can't even.
Right.
There's no device.
When I started college, I thought we were still using floppy disks, and my uncle was like, "No, girl, we got to get a flash drive." And I said, "I don't even know what that is."
Yeah. Like, imagine if your uncle died today, and then you got a floppy disk from him with all the secrets of the family. So I was like, this needs to be in book form. And when I really sat and reflected, I was very taken aback at how many men in my life have poured into me and how many I had subconsciously sought guidance from. And it's not a knock to the women that have helped me along the way, but I never innately sought out women because I had my mom.
Right.
So, if someone poured into me, there's Aisha Tyler and Adele Gibbons, there's so many Black women in my career that have helped and done stuff, but they were never filling a void, they were supplementing my mom. And so in the idea of knowing who he is, my son needs to know who I was. Yeah. I don't know who my dad was completely. I know him professionally. I know some of him to a bit up until 16, but most anybody that can tell me about my dad is some fun story from back in the day or whatever, but I would rather know some of the more human moments, and most of the people that could tell me that I either don't know or they're not alive.
Right.
So I wrote the book.
Love it. Love it. Give him a round of applause for that. Woo! Yes. When I opened up the book, I wasn't expecting to also be able to relate to some of the stories that you were talking about. As someone who was raised in a single parent home, mom was the only one around. And so there's like an undercurrent of forgiveness in a few of your stories. And I want to talk to you about forgiving yourself and forgiving your father. I know one of the last conversations you talk about having with your father is like, did I do a good job? And he was talking about the baked potato that you made him.
Yeah.
Can you expound on forgiving him and forgiving yourself? And
so what I tried to do with the book is frame each story as a lesson of sorts for my son and inherently for young men. And the idea of, I think that our kids are afraid of us, and I don't think they should be. I don't think that we give our kids enough runway to feel comfortable asking very tough and fair questions. My son is 9, and he asks, why aren't you and mom together anymore? And and I'm not gonna run from that question. You figure out a way to distill it in a way that a 9-year-old can understand it, and how what happened between she and I has no bearing on me and you. And I'm blessed that we have a great co-parenting relationship where we still do once a month. The 3 of us go out for breakfast. Like, we still do a trip once a year, like, to make sure he understands that. But like the idea of my dad being too scared to ask me what I thought of him, because that's ultimately what he was asking. He wanted a Yelp review of his raising me a month before he died. And you're 16, you don't know how to answer that question. You don't know the totality of that. And so what happened, so my father had prostate cancer, and the last month of his life, for the most part, he was at our house. And you have to remember, this man has been wildly disrespectful to my mom, but he's also a pillar in the Black community. My father, just so you can have the understanding of the confliction, was a civil rights journalist. He covered every conflict from South African riots in Soweto. He was in Rhodesia before it was Zimbabwe. He was over there getting shot at, covering story. Any struggle of people of color from Soweto up until the Rodney King riots, my father was physically there with a tape recorder interviewing people. He started the National Black Network in Chicago in the late 1960s, which was, at the time, the first of its kind. It was a syndicated radio news service where Black news reporters for the radio collected their stories and then distributed them out to other radio stations across the country. You'd start talking about mobilizing and organizing in the 60s for Black folks. That service that he co-founded was red blood cells for spreading Black messages. He hired Don Cornelius. Before Don Cornelius became Don Cornelius, he worked for my pops. So he cared about people immensely. But on the family side, it just lacked. He's a conflicted man. And so that confliction shows up, and I talk about it, tell different stories in the book about it, but when it came time for him to get called home, he asked me to make him a baked potato, and he didn't finish it. It sat in front of him for like 2 hours. He ate like 2 bites. You lose your appetite near the end with cancer. And I come to get the baked potato to take it back, throw it out in the kitchen, and he goes, "I did all right, didn't I?" And I said, "Yeah, you did the best you could." And he said, "Yeah, I did the best I could." And I thought he was talking about the fucking baked potato. And it wasn't until the funeral. So the woman, I have 2 younger half brothers. The woman that my father raised those kids with, they lived together, they cooked, they had meals. He went to their basketball practices. He checked homework. My daddy went to parent-teacher conferences with my the whole rip. That woman died 2 years before my father. And so at my father's funeral, we're taking him up, we're taking the casket up the hill to put it in the ground. Her tombstone is right there. And he bought his and hers tombstones when she passed because he wanted to be buried next to her. Mind you, he never legally divorced my mother. I'm standing there, and you're standing there next to your mom, and you're burying a man next to the woman he loved more than you. And my sister comes over, my sister Brenda, and she's always protective. That's the other thing, is that when you got like a bunch of half siblings, none of y'all got the same parent. You get the same version,
Right.
iPhone 2, iPhone 12. Saying, I got the iPhone 2, Daddy. Y'all got the little touch screen and the I had the trackball, I had the BlackBerry.
Right, yeah.
And so my sister is always protective of my father's reputation. And even at 16, she knew, she saw it in my eyes. And she comes over, she goes, and she's looking at Valerie's, tombstone or whatever. She looks at me. Just know that Daddy loved you, and he always did. He did the best he could. And when she said that, the baked potato came back in my mind. And I was furious because I missed my window to tell him the truth. I don't know what I would have said or how I would have said it, but I missed the window. So then for me, the lesson in that With my son, give him the window once a month. Hey man, is there anything you want to ask? What do I do? What do you wish I did more of and less of? Just that simple question once a month. And he won't answer it that day. It'll usually take, my son is like a 2-3 day processor. And then just one day walking to school, he'll just go, you don't have to yell all the time when I do this. But then it's a conversation about, well, what happened that triggered the yelling? Now, if I don't yell, what are you going to do to stop the thing that triggers me to yell? And this is a two-way thing. Yeah. So it's created dialogue, and to me, that's what I hope that, the parents take away from it. I mean, it's framed in the idea of fatherhood, but it really is, I think that where parenting is concerned, we are either doing what was done. We're either the parent that we love, we're the version of the parent that we loved, or we are what we wish we would have had.
Yes.
So I'm the latter.
You mentioned your mother, and I'm glad you did because I love her as she pops up in this book.
First chapter.
Yeah, like that's
she was the daddy.
You know what I'm saying? She's a real VIP, as they say. Yeah. And I want to ask you about, because your father was this very high esteemed, very well respected man in the community, but your mother, at the same time, was learning how to be a lawyer. You were listening to that. I don't know how to say it. Bill Handel. Bill
Handel on the law.
Right. In retrospect, do you feel that? I mean, and surely it combines together with having that access to that information, and then the career that you had. How important, when you reflect on that, having those experiences with your parents, or knowing that you were in the midst of greatness and it allowed you to be who you are today?
So my mother was one of the original 9 students that helped to integrate Delta State University in Mississippi. So, her history with civil rights and growing up in Clarksdale, all of my family, all my mama's side is from Clarksdale, and, just rich Black history down there. You couple that with my pops, and they were definitely well educated. My mom, for the most part, I was a latchkey kid because my mom was always out getting another degree. It was a master's degree, it was a doctorate, it was a law degree. And knowing what I know now, part of why she moved back in with my pops was, I'm going to take the money I save on rent and put myself through school so that I can be in a situation where I can leave you. And they slept on separate sides of the house for the most part because my pops worked from pretty much 5 a.m. to 10 a.m. So he was gone when we got up. By the time we got home, he was back out the door at night to do jazz shows and go out to play jazz on the radio, and then also go drink with his partners and do it. And that's for the 3 days he came home. Wow. The other 3-4 days he wasn't even here. So I think for my mom, the pursuit of education and always trying to better yourself and never being comfortable where you were is something I gathered from her. The same thing with my dad. My dad had this booming, deep bass voice, and so much so that pretty much every radio station he got hired at in the 50s, he was the first Black hire. So he just traveled the Midwest, being the first Black person to work in these spaces, and took a lot of heat and took a lot of shit for that. He covered movements, and every Bloody Sunday was there, beat on, bit on, sprayed with fire hoses. And so I don't think as a kid you realize what you're in the presence of. Right. It's not till you get older that you go, oh damn. We have a guy right now that's digitizing a lot of my pop's old reel-to-reels from the radio station, all of his commentary shows. He did something that you could compare it today to maybe Tavis Smiley or Roland Martin in the sense of just down the barrel commentary of what's happening, take a couple calls. He's probably closer to Karen Hunter, a little bit more in that lane. Okay. But we're going through all of these reel-to-reels, and I got interviews. I got my dad sitting down with Louis Farrakhan at a soul food restaurant. Wow. I'm 82. Just a regular interview. And Mr. Farrakhan, what's going on?
And it was just collecting dust in the basement?
Just sitting in my mama's attic.
Wow.
I mean, I remember going I think it was 88 when Dukakis ran, and Jesse Jackson was in the Democratic primary in 88. I remember going with my pops because when my parents didn't live together, when we were still living in Memphis before my parents moved in together, I would get sent to Birmingham in the summer for the first month of summer vacation. I would go be with my dad. My dad didn't believe in daycare. He might send me to the Y, but for the most part, I was just at work with him. So like, that's where the love for journalism came, because I'm up with him at 5 in the morning, reading the paper at Hardee's, and then I'm sitting on the floor in the control room while he reads AP Wire stories for 3 hours and takes calls from the community. So when I go to Birmingham during the summer, my pops goes, yeah, I'm gonna go backstage. Jesse Jackson's in town, I'm gonna interview him, you should come. And I'm third grade, I don't care about Jesse Jackson. Yeah. But now that I'm older, he wanted me to see that. He wanted to expose me to that. You need to see. My dad did a really good job of putting me around accomplished black men. Mm. And Birmingham is a beautiful place because it's 70-75% black in the city proper. You see so many black people doing well. He made sure I knew him. He only bought black owned, other than groceries. And even with the groceries, he would deliberately coupon clip and go to the white side of town to buy groceries because they charged more for certain stuff in black neighborhoods. Mm-hmm. You know, the milk would be 20 cents more on the black side of town. So that was his idea of getting over on white folks.
Yes.
It's burning $5 in gas.
We make up for the things. We make up,
They save 20 cents.
His head and face says,
So, this idea of being around that type of greatness, he was an educator. My pops took a break pretty much every 2 years to teach journalism at a black college in the state. Mm-hmm. So he did Tuskegee, he did Alabama State, he did Miles College. And so, Miles, my mom's still there. She's been there 35 years. And, she's in administration now, but she was in the classroom at the time. Right. So you're just around.
So you ain't had no choice but to be great, is what you're telling me. Yeah.
I don't know.
But you can say that though, and it's okay. Like
I was raised in a house where just intellect was the standard. It's just not gonna be like, it never felt like something different. I come home, they watching Jeopardy, my dad, there was a TV in the house dedicated to C-SPAN. Like, one TV was just C-SPAN and a tape recorder rolling. And my pops would go back and listen to the day's congressional. If there was a bill that was getting voted on that day, he's at the breakfast table listening to just raw media. Like, it's the way the technology is now, where you can just type in a sentence to get the sound bite. Mm-hmm. My dad would sit and listen to 2 hours of footage just to get the 30 seconds he needed, and then use that 30 seconds to build a 1 hour commentary around, and then play that the next day on the air. So.
That's such dedication. Do you find that you have nuances like that in your process?
Yeah, I do think that when I look at how my mom, which is interesting because I didn't even talk about that shit. But the idea of knowing what I know now, my father escaped in his work because he did not feel comfortable at home. So he sought comfort in women and was irresponsible in how he sought that comfort. Right. Then when he finally found a woman that loved him, my too young era, but that woman, my dad loved that woman. I have to acknowledge that is the example of love I must now use to educate my son on love. So as I seek a partner, I have to make sure it looks similar to that. Even if it does sting to realize the best example I have of love is proof that you didn't love my mom. Mm-hmm. But I can't sit in that because I got to raise the boy. Yeah. So I ain't got time to be mad at you. I got to just sift through it. And this is the first page of the book. I got to take the best part to you and figure out and discard the rest. But I think that, my mother had a work ethic to an end. my father had a work ethic, but I don't know if it was to work towards something or if he was running from something. And so I have that same work ethic, for better or worse, you know, and I don't think I've fully set to figure out which it is for me.
Gotcha.
You know?
Yeah.
Because if it is running from something, well, what am I running from? Well, that's a whole nother book. Like, that's a whole nother thing to dig into. Right. But I think just the idea of caring about other people and using your voice as a tool and a vessel to help Black people, I think in that regard, that's where I fully see why they fell in love at the jump.
Gotcha.
And so that is the same thing that drives me, because, I mean, how much can you vilify somebody when you basically just like them in a structural way? Everything I did at the Daily Show was the same thing my dad did for 50-something years on the radio. I just snuck in some punchlines.
Right.
But it's the same level of give a damn. It's the same level of, you know, he doesn't watch C-SPAN, but we had 3 TVs going at the Daily Show, and then you could pull transcripts of every syllable that was spoken on other news channels, and I could just read a newscast. You know, when I went to FAMU for, I started in SBI, in the business school, and what the business school used to make you do every day was read the Wall Street Journal. Every single day, you read the Wall Street Journal. You had to read the front page, and I think the stock page, you had to like track a stock the whole week. And then the rest of the day, there would be a 5-question quiz on something from the front page. So I would read the Wall Street Journal, and then I would read a local paper from any city. It didn't matter. I just wanted to know what was happening. And that was better in the 90s because there were more local reporters. Local news was more specific. And you started seeing how the news moves the stock market, and you start seeing the correlation between current events and how it influences the fiscal stuff in this country. So you just start noticing things, but just being a sponge of information, I'm just like him. Yeah.
I think we always learn, like in growing up in life, that we're like our parents in one way or another, even if we try to avoid it.
And it's scary.
It's terrifying.
It's scary when you really sit and you realize that, and you go, oh, okay. He was just fooling with people he didn't really like, because the temporary escape of that gave, and you got to figure my pops had all of his traumas from childhood, from his pops being gone, being crippled. He had a hip injury. My dad walked with a limp his entire life. You have, of course, the traumas of the civil rights movement, and not only what happened to you, but as a reporter, you're seeing it happen to everybody. Like, it's one thing to go to the protest and you get beat on and you go home. If you out there every single day and you're just seeing these traumas, some people got the bottle, some people got the drugs. I feel like my pop saw women. So it's like, okay, if that's how you medicate it, then if I'm gonna be better, then I've got to dissect this part of you where, like, the hardest shit was calling my 2 younger half brothers after I did Finding Your Roots, and just finally coming to grips with, hey man, what was Pops like? Because we've never talked about it. No, because it was just seen as this thing that we just never discussed. He with your mama was there, but we over here with me. But we cool. And they're younger. And I say younger, they're not that young. I'm 46. They're 37, 38. Like that. Nora's 40? Yeah. What are you turning 40? She know my brother.
That's crazy. I was like,
Justin.
okay.
Justin's like 8. She fact checking my own family.
We're from Alabama.
But like, in talking to them, they described a man I never knew. Like, I'm I don't like Father's Day on social media because they'll post a picture with them and pops, and they got the old Polaroids with the date at the bottom.
Yeah.
I can look at the date of the picture and I can tell you whether or not the fucking heat was on at our house. But I can't be mad at that now. I just gotta look at the picture and go, okay, take the kids somewhere. If you want to show love to your son, treat him the way he treated your two younger brothers. So I gotta unpack that. If I want to, because if I am my dad, then I need to figure out what are the things that he did and did well, that he enjoyed, that actually connected with the child. Okay, travel. So that's what me and my boy do. We gonna go places. We gonna get in the car. We gonna go on the road. So I don't learn that if I'm not following my brothers and having to like accept the sting of looking at their recap with this man that I wasn't that familiar with.
Yeah. Thank you. I want to pivot a little bit, and I don't want to give too much away because this book is, as the kids say, bussin'.
Do they say that?
Is it still bussin'? So. But there's a chapter here, and I wanted to ask you about it because it's first of all, every chapter is like a gut punch, and I love this book. I can't wait to give this book to my brother. But I want to ask you about the chapter called the Cook in the Creek. And yes, so, and I'm asking you this because this book is vulnerable, but I think more recently, Black men have been finding a way to express the things that they went through. Like I know, and this is, YG has a song where he literally says in the first verse, I was raped. Talks about it, right? Okay, and so while you don't have that experience, you do have an experience where two weird...
You got close.
Right, it got...
You're very close.
Yes. Why did you feel it was important to put that in this book?
Because I don't know what type of predators my son is going to be around. So you can like what did they tell us growing up? Stranger danger. Don't get in the car. If they say they know your mama, asking your mama's name. But social media can get around all them account security questions you're trying to get your kids to quiz a stranger on. To me, it's about, as best you can, reading body language and intention. You know, so for me, I think what happened is that, and I was like this before, but it took sitting and thinking about it as you write the chapter. You go, oh yeah, I don't trust people that are too nice. Well, why is that? Is there something that happened because the chapter is about how to trust strangers, how to read strangers' intention. That's it. And it's rooted in, so I worked at a hospital in Birmingham, and I worked in the cafeteria or whatever. And we had a cook and a supervisor that were very, very cool and very nice to me. And if my car was broke down, they would one of the two of them would always give me a ride home from work. Now, the supervisor, now mind you, neither one of them lived on my side of town. I'm not on the way to anything that you need to do after this job. It's 3 other people in this kitchen who could take me, who live that way. But the manager was insistent. I'm gonna take you home, man, and which is very nice. And it was refreshing because nobody had ever really been nice when you asked for a ride. And you know, like normally when you ask somebody for a ride, they roll their eyes, they'll do it, but they, gas money, give me $5. But then the next thing I know, one of the managers giving me a ride home one of these times, and it's way deep in the book, but he's giving me a ride home, but he needs to stop off at a friend's house to grab something real quick. Pull over, stop at the house. I go, cool, I'll sit in the car, I got the Game Boy. He go, no, it's not safe out here. You should come wait in the house. Now, but he's right though. Like it was the hood, it wasn't my hood. I don't know what. So I'm in the house. I'm 15, 16 maybe when this happens. I get in the house, I sit on the couch. He just go, I gotta change clothes because I'm going to a thing. That way, it's a banquet. I gotta put on this that way. Next thing I know, my manager and that same cook is in the living room wearing nothing but bath towels, sitting alongside me. And now they asking way too personal questions about dating and puberty and what type of girls are you into. And it took a long time for my stranger danger switch. Like up until that point, I'm like, you're holding up my day by taking too long to take me home. But fine, I'll sit on the couch. You ain't done nothing wrong up until this point. But when I look back at the totality of our interactions, motherfucker was too nice. And he was always too nice. And he bought candy and I got the whatever CD was out, he got it the week before, would get it to me. That was just him laying foundation.
You got his address?
He got his address.
We'll pull up.
And so in hindsight, that was like, but you have to remember, my relationship, like when you work a regular job, that's the first time that you're really around men that you're around adults who don't owe you shit.
Right.
They're not supervisory. There's not a teacher. It ain't the scoutmaster. It ain't the pastor. It ain't the youth minister. None of that. It's just a dude who can just chill with you because you're co-workers. So it feels there's a different dynamic to it. So you have to be very, very keen. And I am extreme. Like I love when someone is benevolent, and it's a blessing. But if somebody's too nice, too fast, to this day, it's what do you want? What are you doing? What's the aim? It may not always be something as, criminalistic as that, but I'm always leery about anybody that just without saying what you need in return or whatever, I'm just leery of that. And to me, that's what that is about. And I think that's bigger than, hey, here's how not to get molested versus here's how not to be taken advantage of in any capacity.
Yeah.
Just have this sense of awareness about yourself. That's a skill set that I possess, so I believe it's one that you probably have in there as well. So figure out how to find it and get in tune with it. That's to my son.
Yeah. So I think we got a couple more minutes, and so I'm going to ask if anyone else has a question. But I want to ask you, were there stories in the book that you wrestled with putting in here where you're like, that's just too real, that's just too raw, like I don't think the public ready for that? Or was everything intentional? Like, did you know off the rip what stories you wanted to tell, what men you wanted to talk about?
I knew most of the men. I mean, and the stories are a little more fun in the backside of the book. I mean, there's still tough lessons and stuff, but I think when the pimp almost shot us in Tallahassee.
No way, because there was something he said, and he said, you worried about what you lost when you need to be thankful for what you still have.
Yeah. Without getting into the whole thing, a stripper stole my class ring at FAMU.
I was there. I graduated in 2001.
That's when I came out. The Frederick Humphreys era.
Humphreys era.
They hired a woman to come down. My buddy was in town for homecoming, and it was his birthday, and we hired a woman to come and dance or whatever. And she came and danced at the house, and when she went upstairs to change clothes to leave, she went through everybody's room and took everybody, like she ran us. I mean, we was 19, she in her 30s. She knew that's a lick, that's an easy lick. We downstairs underage drinking, we're not paying attention to nothing. And we went to look for her. And so we went back to the neighborhood, and we was banging on the apartment door, and we was in Frenchtown.
The natives know.
Just off their reaction, you know what Frenchtown is. And we stomping through Frenchtown, banging on doors with baseball bats, looking for a man named Lucius. And I didn't change that name. That's really his name. And Lucius rolled up and he just said, "You worried about what you done lost when you need to be thankful for what you still got. And then drove off. And we was like, we should leave. But it's like stuff like that. I got arrested when I was in college for stealing credit cards, and I did 3 years of probation for it. I can't not talk about that because I made mistakes, and so much of my career is an embodiment of people forgiving me and still taking a chance on me, but also learning that you can't wait on people to forgive you. You don't need somebody's permission to be better. And that's kind of how they shape criminal justice in this country, is that you got to just, I'm sorry. Can I? No. Just be better. I think as wild as some of the stories got, the main thing that I was very paranoid about was there's no way to talk about how my dad mistreated his responsibilities at home without dragging my mother into it and essentially telling her business. And people in Birmingham reading that. And but my mom kept to herself, and to the point that my dad stepped out with the other woman so much, the streets assumed her to be the wife. So my mom, when I tell you, my mom went to work at UAB, and then my mom went home and she made a meal, left at 6 p.m., back out the door, 3 hours of whatever degree she was getting that year. So to talk about infidelity and things like that without it making it seem like my mama was some type of weak-ass woman who just condoned it and was just dumb. No, she had a plan. And that was the plan she chose. I really grappled with that. But I cannot shortchange my son. We haven't talked, my mom's read the book. She's understanding, but there's a deeper conversation I know she and I are going to have because she told me there were a lot of things in there that she didn't know that I was going through. So I think more for her, it's more of a revelation of just emotion. The woman that my father loved, there was a day that she came by the house and wasn't supposed to. And my mom took a baseball bat to her car.
It was one of my favorite chapters.
But because of what my mother did, my father treated us pretty much terribly for the back half of the last 2 years of his life. But I can't just go, and then my daddy got extra mean. You gotta know why. And so then him being extra mean created an even deeper canyon between he and I so that you can better understand everything it is that I'm forgiving him for. My pop's side chick came to the house. My mama tore her car up with a baseball bat. My daddy didn't pay the heat bill for 2 months, and we slept in the cold. We slept fully clothed. But the lights was on, so you could run the heater until you go to sleep, and you gotta turn the heater off. So now you wake up freezing cold. So then you gotta stay up for an hour with the heater on, waiting for the room to get warm enough just for you to fall back to sleep on a fucking school night. And then you got a 2.4 GPA, and now you're teaching your face talking about why you ain't studying. Because I'm fucking cold. It's shit happening at this house that I can't even tell y'all about, that y'all not gonna even understand or respect because the man is a celebrity in these streets. So, talking about the stuff that happened in the house, those were the stories that I was the most hesitant about because my mom has built her emotional box. Whether she want to confront the past or not, that's her choice. I didn't want this book to be something where strangers come up to her asking her about chapter 2.
Right.
So what happened? Did you really take a baseball? My mama don't want to talk. You shouldn't even know that side. It's an educator.
Right.
My mama working admissions. My mama the last person you talk to before you withdraw from college. My mama dedicated her life to talking kids into going back and finishing their degrees. You know, she don't want people to know that she took a baseball bat.
Yeah, I mean, it was glorious the way. I was like, period. Period. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's a lot of, and there's more that could have been said, but it did, like, that one story, I'm like, I have to tell that because they have to understand when my pops turned that corner, because it changed me as a man. You didn't pay the light bill, we didn't have the bread, so then I started raking leaves. And once I started raking leaves at 15, it showed me that my own hustle and independence could give me a space to operate without needing anybody. And then once I started raking leaves in the hood, I started learning that I could sweep parking lots at gas stations and Church's Chicken, and I could get $10, or I could get free food from the gas station in exchange for sweeping the parking lot, take the food into summer school, sell that shit that morning. I'm walking into summer school with a backpack full of Egg McMuffins. But that type of independence drilled into me, oh, well, now I'm less of a burden on my mom, because you feel like you're a burden because you know your mama got to call so-and-so to borrow the fucking money because he didn't give you money for lunch this week. So now you become obsessed with hustling and making money because you don't want to be a burden on them. So now you got the work ethic and you got the focus, but now you've been denied your own childhood because you don't want to be a burden on your mom. So much so that when you get to college and now you need clothes, ain't enough leaves to rake to afford fucking Polo and Tommy, so you start stealing credit cards. And so those things all come back to that single incident. I have to tell that. I have to. And I feel like my mother understands, but I know we got a conversation. When I go home for Thanksgiving, it's gonna be some shit.
Go ahead, prepare yourself for that one. Go ahead. So I'm gonna open up the floor. Do we have anybody who has any questions? Okay. Yes. Please stand up and introduce yourself.
I'm from Maryland. My daddy is daddy living right now. Just got cancer diagnosis. He's nearly 80. And he's daddying. And I'm finding out that he's a horrible person. How do you reconcile the parts of your personality that are directly connected? I love music. The pictures of me with my earphones on, with my daddy sitting on his lap. But he's a horrible person. So how do you reconcile the parts of you that you can trace directly to something he did that's good with he's a horrible person?
But your existence is proof that you can extract the good from the bad. Is it not? Like, that's what I learned, is that, you know, my pops would not give up control of the television when he came home at night. So we only had 2 TVs with cable, one in the living room and the C-SPAN TV. And so from 5 o'clock till 8 o'clock is his TV. And he'd switch between all the channels and all the different newscasts. He would watch every newscast. He'd watch at 5 o'clock, he'd switch between NBC, ABC, CBS, go back over to Fox. I do the correspondence dinner, 2023. And there's a table of black journalists. The National Black Network eventually became AURN, American Urban Radio Networks. And there's all of these black reporters and April Ryan and them, just all of them, you know, the them and them. After the correspondence dinner, they're coming up to me and telling me, the ones that worked in the Birmingham markets, that my pops used to watch their broadcasts and then he would critique them and give them advice. My dad was not watching the news solely because he was obsessed with it. He was watching the newest anchors into the market and mentoring them and giving them pointers. It's the same thing I do with stand-up comedians. And I got that from him. I never saw him doing it, but I'm gonna go do that too. I think as best you can, acknowledge the parts of you that are him, that are good, and build from that something better for yourself. You're not everything in every single choice that he made, you know, and I do think this is kind of separate from your question, be very careful about other family members trying to decide what closure should look like for you. Because you're going to get other people trying to tell you, well, you ain't got to be tripping. Because somebody had a different version of it.
Right.
Somebody you got the BlackBerry version. I'm sorry. Somebody else got iPhone 20. Don't let those people dictate that for you. But if there's a baked potato moment to be had with them, I will say it's worth it to try. It feeds. I don't know what the bad person and how abhorrent or reprehensible any of those wrongs are. But if there's anything to having a conversation, even if it's not reconciliation, simply understanding why they made the choice could help you decide how to not make that choice for yourself when you're faced with the same challenge.
Yeah.
My name is Adina Johnson. I'm the author of Butterfly Blue, The Pain of the Fertility and Child Forgiveness. I get emotional. But I had to go through the same thing with my dad. But in my mom, I think about what you're saying because my mom read my book after I published in 2019 and I had to hear, well, that's not how that happened. So my mom wasn't as educated as your mom is, but there is still some pain that they have to go through and they have to share their process with you and try to rewrite history and try to tell you what was wrong. So I just say be ready because she's gonna have questions, she's gonna have comments, and it's going to be like, write your book, Mom. Write your perspective because this is what I had at 18, 20, 21. I had to watch my dad die. So he passed in 2010. So I had to come up with all of that and then still support him and love on him while he was passing.
It's hard, like they've done studies on it, like in court cases where what you remember one way, years and years later, you remember another way. So when they call a witness 10 years after the fact, your testimony is different from what you did in the courtroom 10 years, and you literally saw the murder or saw the crime. I'm walking into it with open ears, and I'm willing to hear everything she has to say. I just think at the end of the day, my mom wants to be heard, but I think like most people who deal with the trauma, you create a new construct for yourself. And I don't know how much of what's real versus what she created to make herself be able to survive, we'll have to deal with. But I'm gonna hear her out about it. Thank you.
We got two more questions, and then that's you, and then Jordan, and then April. So go ahead.
Hi, I'm really grateful to have stayed and to be able to hear the story. I wish I could get the book now. I have a 18-year-old son. He's a young rattler.
Okay.
He's going to do journalism. He wants to be a sports.
Oh, send him my way. Listen. I came out in J school. My degree is in broadcast.
I just realized.
Yes, ma'am.
So I
Yeah.
was like, man, I can't get the book today, but
It was a bunch of family rattlers. I had a sitcom 2013. They got canceled, and I was adrift for a year and a half. And his buddy Kareem White, who came out of J school, he was working at ESPN, and he was the one that got me on as a guest on a young woman named Jamel Hill's first TV show. And Jamel had me on, which led to Bomani having me on. They put me on Sports Nation. And I ended up on ESPN for a year just telling jokes and talking about sports. And that's what caught the eye of the Daily Show producers.
Oh, wow.
So, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, that's, I take all of that too. I'm just curious because the book is Many Fathers, and he's always been interested in the sport, but I worried about him in the journalism, but he is actually a pretty good writer. But what he wrote first in his first summer class at FAMU was a short essay about he didn't grow up with his father. And he was reunited with his father at his funeral after not seeing him when he was 2. And it's I think he's still unpacking some of that. And I always worry about him finding a father figure because I have not found that for him. And when the title of Many Fathers, I was wondering about your journey of where you found what you needed to feed that as well.
I'll say this with respect. It's out of your hands now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The world got him, God got him. And so you have to give him the power of discernment. And I think for me, it was a lot of the lessons I learned were just in reflection. Like, oh, wow, that was the thing. I used to do, when I first started doing stand-up comedy, I did day labor when I would be in the city. Like if I was in the city for 4 days, I'm not staying in a hotel all day. Let's get some money. I ain't making but $50 a show. So I would go do shows, and then I would get up in the morning and go. I'd stand in front of Home Depot. Sometimes I could go down to like labor finders and do the paperwork and get like a proper 1099 W-2 job or whatever, you know, moving pavement. And a lot of the men that I worked with in those jobs, you know, and I kind of talk about one in the book, but like a lot of those men were important in my upbringing because they were happy, and it fucking horrified me. Like, I never like sweat the way I sweat outdoors in the Carolina heat. There's a concrete factory in Columbia, South Carolina, Quick Creek, and it's 100 in the shade in an aluminum tin thing, and this guy comes up, man, you keep up at this, they gonna give you 50 hours. And I'm not,
You didn't have to say it like that.
but I'm not knocking a hard day's work, but I learned what wasn't for me by being out and around and experiencing, you know, all types of things. I think that I don't want to say the mistake, but I just wish that mentorship programs help to supplement the truth that it's not just, here's a man, and go be with that man and hang out, and that man is going to fill in all the blanks, versus, hey, this is one of many people that you'll meet along the way. Look at his values, look at how he carries himself, and find other people similar to him. You know, kind of a teach to fish, you know, type scenario. But just continue to give him discernment and trust, and I think he's on the right path. Send him my way. I'll make sure he won't get arrested. Let's do that. I'll make sure he won't find Lucius.
One last question, Jordan.
Okay, I have a two-part question that's quick.
Okay.
Okay, so you talked
I'm
about.
sorry, real quick, Jordan, we have to be out of this room at 4 o'clock.
Okay, that's it.
I
Okay.
just want you to say that.
Okay.
I'll give a quick answer.
Okay, so you talked about how you had to unpack what happened with your half-brothers and just a number of other traumas that you experienced. What was your process with unpacking those things and other men, in, as far as like was it therapy, or like what are the things you had to go through to unpack that? And then my second part of the question is, at what age, when you're old and gray, because you said you wrote this for if you're no longer here for your son, when that doesn't happen, at what age would you want him to read your book? What's an appropriate age?
He's 9 now. I think in my perfect world, it would be a gift to him at high school graduation.
Oh, yeah.
That to me is the perfect time, because you've had enough pain, you've had enough heartbreak, you've had a couple of losses, even if they, minor. In terms of the process of working things out, I talk with all of my half siblings, my older half siblings. We're cool, but I don't fuck with you like that. If you ask me or my siblings to tell you each other's birthdays, we could not. I had an offer to go on Celebrity Family Feud. They were not on the list. Now Norris was. I was gonna call him. But talking to my half siblings was a huge help. Therapy helps, but therapy is just more to process what you feel and what you're doing. But to get the information I needed, what I learned in talking to my half siblings was like, oh, you got a fucked up version too. You just didn't get the fucked up version I got, but he was really fucked up in the okay, it wasn't just our family. And that oddly made it okay. Yeah. Thank you all so much.